Here we are. Welcome to Beaver Politics, where we talk about Canadian politics and social issues. And myself, guys, I am the Progressive Moose, and you are watching me here on the Mossy Side with the Moose. Just going to move this up a little bit more here, guys. Um, so my goal on the Mossy Side with the Moose is to do more of a deeper dive into the issues and politics that we're facing in today's society. And right now, guys, one of the biggest things is the Ontario election that Doug Ford has decided to call. So that's what I'm going to be diving into today. But before I do have a couple notes. Guys, don't forget that we do post on YouTube. So if you happen to miss a live show or just want to go back and watch it again because you enjoyed it, make sure you go check us out, Beaver Politics on YouTube. Make sure you follow us there, guys. Would love to see your comments and hear from you over there as well. So don't forget about that. As well, guys. Don't forget to keep liking the stream. Tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. And guys, we do have live goals going on. So if you look up over here, there's gifts that we have that we're hoping to reach our goals. So if you feel compelled during the live, please feel free. We appreciate everything that you do decide to give. Helps us grow and become a better source for information, news. Um, yeah, we're all in this together too. So that's the whole point of doing these lives and having these episodes and talking with you guys live. And again, guys, we've got more on the go. You can join our Discord for free. So head on over to our main page on here, and it should be in the link tree there. Um, and guys, remember we've got these goldish orange, as I call them, hearts up the top. Become a part of the team if you feel compelled. And don't forget, you can also subscribe, which also helps us out as we grow to improve things and make things better along the way. So, with all that being said, guys, let's get into it. The Ontario election that Doug Ford has called. So much information to go through. And everything's kind of crazy trying to get all the information because some of it is just hard to find. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. Um, so Doug Ford called the election. It's scheduled, I believe, for the 27th of February is when we hit the polls in Ontario. Just so you guys know, I live in Northern Ontario, so absolutely affects me. Um, and anyone else in Ontario, and it's going to be telling to see, guys, when the overall society or Canadians look at politics right now, myself and you probably look at politics the way we should, where we separate the federal and the provincial government. We realize the different aspects of it. We realize we vote for our MPs or MPPs, our representative for the area, district, and that's what makes up Parliament, whether it be on the federal level or provincial level. Um, but if you paid attention to all the different provincial elections that we have had, because the outlook towards the federal government and the federal liberals was so bad, it was affecting how people were voting or have been voting in provincial elections, and it's shown across the board that way, right? So right now, it's one of those things where hopefully we kind of break away from that, especially with all the different issues that this election is going to be focusing on. We've got all our homegrown crisis, so to speak, as well as now all this stuff to do with tariff war and tariff situation, which is currently on pause. So good news in that sense, guys. We had another 30 days. Um, but yeah, jumping back into the main point here. Um, so as of right now, guys, I want to give you a bit of key information here. So for people that need help navigating this election in Ontario, go to Elections Ontario at www.elections.on.ca. Guys, if you need to, you go there, You can apply to work at the polls and other key parts and aspects of the election process. Also, if you need, make sure you go check that out, and they can give you the resources, give you the information, and help you do so. Make sure you're prepared to vote, guys, with all your information. Um, as well, you can go there to find out where you can go to vote. If you're not sure, if you hasn't been clear, go use their system and it'll tell you where you need to go to make sure you vote. Come voting day. Um, Also, if you want to apply to vote by mail, make sure you go on over there. You can apply to vote by mail over there as well. So again, guys, that's Elections Ontario at www.elections.on.ca. So make sure you head on over there if you need any of that information or any help doing any of that stuff. Great resource, and that's what it's there for. A lot of those options aren't currently available, but in the upcoming days, they will be. Each one has a different date in which the resource becomes available. So as we move closer, they start opening up, and you'll get access to those resources, of course. Um, as of right now, so the election's been called, so technically nobody's seated. But going into this election, guys, there are 124 seats in the Ontario legislature. So that makes roughly, no, not roughly, it is. It'd be 63 is what any party would need to be able to have the majority in the Ontario legislature. Um, and the current makeup of it. So Conservatives won the last election with 79, NDP ended up with 28, Liberals with 9, Greens with 2, and as of right now, Independents have 6. And there's a reason for some of those, and I'm going to get more into one of them in a little bit, guys, because I think it's important to highlight. But before I get into that, let me scroll down my notes here. Guys, don't forget to keep tapping that screen. Tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. Keep the word going. Let's get more people around and let's get the love out there, guys. So, party platforms at this point. There has many of the parties. What it's been is just promises along the campaign trail, whether it be during interviews or um, out doing, town halls, that sort of stuff, stuff that they've said. So I'm going to break down the best guys for what I've got. Um, so far, I've sifted through so many different sources to find as much as they've said as possible by this point. Hopefully, in soon in the upcoming days, we'll have actual put together platforms um, that we can go and look at and read more into kind of their plan on things. So, as of right now, we'll start with the Progressive Conservatives, which Doug Ford is the leader and current Premier of Ontario, with the Conservatives having majority. So, Doug Ford has promised to spend $15 billion over 3 years to speed up capital projects, including widening the Queen Elizabeth Way between Burlington and St. Catharines, add $5 billion to the Building Ontario Fund, and $2 billion to the Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program and Housing Enabling Water System Fund. Also, add $300 million to the Community Sport and Recreation Fund. On electric vehicles, committing to deals with Stellantis and Volkswagen for their battery plants, regardless of what happens with the U.S. presidential Trump tariff threats, and rip up the electric vehicle tax credit. Okay, so invest as well. He wants to invest $1 billion in a skilled development fund for auto workers to transition to a different trade, and another $100 million for an employment fund to help workers who are vulnerable to trade disputes transitions to in-demand jobs. And of course, he vows to fight the federal carbon tax. And over 200 500 billion for roads, highways, and transit. So that's the best that I've got for information in terms of his promises. Miss Radical, you're absolutely right. He does lie. Um, Given his track record over the last, what, 8 years now that we've been dealing with him, he's absolutely, his track record is horrible. So let's keep that in mind, guys. Um, and I mean, he's an incumbent, so we can go by what he's been doing in the last while and we can judge, based on his track record, what we're actually going to see from him and if he's going to keep his promises, which he hasn't much in the past. So why would he start now, right? I didn't quite make a list. I know there's quite a bit. Um, I was more focused on just the platforms at this point, but I definitely will be looking more into that stuff, Miss Radical, and I can definitely do an update in a further episode as well, just to keep everything on track. All the updates along the way, of course. We've still got most of the month here for this election, right? So much more to come, of course, too, guys. So Liberals, Bonnie Crombie is the leader of the Liberal Party right now. She's promising tax cuts from 9.15% to 7.15% for the 51,000 to 75,000 income bracket. So essentially would cut taxes for essentially middle class, I guess. They would consider that, or partial middle class. She also wants to eliminate PST on home heating and hydro bills. They promised to eliminate provincial land transfer tax for the first time. Homebuyers, seniors, downsizing, and non-profit builders. That's not bad. I mean, if they're gonna stick to that, and actually, that's a pretty good, solid thing for a platform right there. So they also promised to scrap development charges on new middle class housing, give all Ontarians access to a family doctor within 4 years by significantly expanding the health team network and recruiting thousands of new domestically and internationally trained family doctors. Guys, I mean, healthcare is a massive issue across Canada, not just here in Ontario. So keep that in mind. I mean, that's a big promise, especially for 4 years. Um, yeah, bring back. Okay, they also want to bring back consumer rebates for electric vehicle purchases in an effort to help slumping sales. So essentially, bring back rebates for people that decide to go with electric vehicles. So, hey, Doug actually had it and he scrapped it at one point. Um, Yeah, which is weird because he's all about the electric vehicles and trying to get the business for the electric vehicles here in Ontario, but not willing to kind of boost things that way. Bit of an oxymoron, in my opinion. Pun intended. As well as for the Liberals, guys, the last point here is to build platform edge doors at TTC subway stations as part of a broader push to improve safety on the country's busiest transit networks. Yeah, so that's the Liberals right now out of the gate. What they promise, what they say they want to focus on. Um Merit Stiles, NDP leader, she really hasn't said much. I mean, she has said what she wants to do, but in terms of numbers and figures, there really hasn't been much in terms of deep dives for information on what she's focusing on. But guys, I'm going to do my best to give you her comments thus far, as vague as they kind of are. So she wants to become premier, of course. Her speech, the biggest speech she's had was like the day after the election was called. So in her speech, she was vague, and when it came to policies. She suggested a vote for her was a vote to protect working class families against the threat of tariffs, to hire more doctors, to build more homes, to fix schools, to make life more affordable. She promises the crowd a strong income protection program to take care of them if Trump's tariffs go through. She told the crowd that health care would be a focus on her campaign, but didn't provide details in her speech. And when she was pressed by a reporter, Stiles responded with a vague, "We're going to be focused on making life better, hiring doctors, building homes, fixing schools, and making life more affordable for Ontarians." And they have said that they want to remove the tolls on provincially owned portions of the Highway 407 and open negotiations to remove tolls on the 407 ETR. The party also pledges to buy that part back. So something that last one definitely is meant to help alleviate gridlock in the greater GTA area, which is a major issue. Um, I live in Northern Ontario, guys, so I can say like there's so much that they've talked about that I really don't care about because I live in the north. It doesn't affect me. And I'm sure a lot of people in Northern Ontario feel the same way I do in terms of that stuff. Um, but yeah, guys, you're going to keep hearing healthcare. Healthcare is one of the biggest issues. I know under Doug Ford, with all the cuts that he's made through both of his times in office, so he's on his second term now. Within his first term, he got it, and it wasn't long before they did an audit and made massive cuts to healthcare, and he's continued to do so in the meantime. So Ontario has seen the record amount of hospital emergency room closures since, I mean, really in modern history, under his leadership and how they've defunded healthcare in this province. So many different hospitals have closed their ERs for sometimes a couple days at a time because they just don't have the staff, they don't have the resources. Um, and meanwhile, Ford's sending it towards the privatized sector. Um, and they pay them more. They pay them almost double too in the private sector as opposed to public sector, which you're just wasting more and more money. Anyway, back on track, guys. We have more I want to get through, and then guys, keep in mind once I get done with this breakdown, bring up people. We can discuss the different parties, your point of view on what you think each party is kind of looking to do, who you think the best option is in your opinion, if you've already come to your decision, and why. I definitely want to know all that. So to a conversation. The Green Party, Mike Schreiner is their leader for the Green Party. So far, they've said quite a bit. So create a tariff task force, create an investment tax credit, develop a Buy Ontario strategy, create a Protect Ontario fund for businesses disproportionately impacted, diversify trade partners, and work to remove interprovincial trade barriers. They also want to block the 400 highways in the Greenbelt and cancel the Highway 12 and Brantford bypass. Those are major issues in southern Ontario in the greater GTA area. So that's um, a lot of people don't want those expansions. A lot of people don't want the green belt to be touched. So right out of the gate, guys, they're making stuff. Um, yeah, so jumping back into it again, guys, we're talking about the Green Party. They want to expand electric pass in rural areas, create a long-term municipal fund for rural and northern communities to improve roads, bridges, and other infrastructure. Guys, that hits home. I'm in northern Ontario, and not very much, not very many focus like they do in terms of campaign promises as focused as this one is for northern communities. So that's good, absolutely, for our infrastructure up here. Um, Moving on, guys, they also want to build at least 250,000 new affordable nonprofit and co op rental homes and 60,000 permanent supportive homes with guaranteed operational funding and make provincial land available at no cost. Wow, that is major. Okay, like that's a campaign promise. So guys, if it actually happens or if they're able to do that good on it, I can't tell you. But that's a big promise. Apologize for my language. But that's definitely a big promise. Um, as well, they want to establish a food belt to protect prime farmland, which is a big issue too. We do have to protect quite a bit of our farmland in Ontario. Um, so that'll be that'll be good. Yeah, so that's the platform so far, guys. If you want to come on up and have a bit of a conversation about that, I'm more than happy to have you come on up, send a guest request, and let's have a conversation on all this. Quite a bit of promises from all the parties. Some are more in depth in terms of their information and how they're going to do things. Others are a bit more vague, but they've all got some pretty big promises in there, guys. So we'll have to see what happens. While we're kicking around and having a conversation, guys, I do want to touch on this. Um, it does affect my riding where I live, so it is more local, but I think it's important for people to know. And it really, I want to be able to show non-bias in terms of how I report things. Guys, I've been trying to do a bit more of a deep dive into a MP for my area, currently sitting MP, Michael Mantha. So he had found himself in some hot water back in 2023. I believe it was August, the reported August 15th is when the report came out. He was the NDP, he was with the NDP party, I should say. Um, and there was a report that had come out in terms of some wrongdoing he was doing to some of his staffers. And as far as I'm going to get into in terms of it is SA. So there's been reporting, but there hasn't been more recent reporting. There hasn't been reporting on this since August 16th, 2024. Okay, so just dive in a little bit, and I'm going to try and say it without actually saying some of the words, guys. The harassment, which the investigation concluded was substantiated, include instances in which Mantha pressured the former staffer to engage in non-consensual SA with him, said the decision from arbiter Jasbir Parmal. Apologize if I'm not saying that correctly. Who heard the case? MPP Mantha SA, the griever, on a regular basis in the office, engaging in several incidents of unwanted physical and S conduct. Notwithstanding the griever's protest that he stop such conduct. Mantha also asked the former staffer to send him photos of herself and tell him about any dreams she might have of him. Three witnesses with direct knowledge of the allegations were interviewed as part of the investigation, and there was a review of substantial video evidence, as well as text messages and online communications, the decision said. In her letter, Easton said Mantha was removed from the NDP caucus while the allegations were investigated. Now that the details have come to light, she said she should do the right, or that he should do the right thing and step down or resign. Mantha seems he really did back then, guys. He was intent on serving out his term and running as an independent candidate in the next provincial election, which is the one we're in right now. He did stay in his position as an independent, and he is right again as an independent in this election, guys. Um, so on August 12th, 2024, he issued a statement stating that it is time to move past this matter and that he disagrees with some of the characterizations made. However, it doesn't seem to be any that he engaged in really inappropriate behavior towards the employee. They issued a statement that said he wouldn't be commenting on the issue and the advice of legal Goma Manitoulin, the statement said, I will fulfill my role as a member of provincial parliament for the remainder of my term and leave the decision on my future in the hands of the voters in the district, which he's done. And again, he's running again in this one. And I'm bringing this up, guys, because I want people to be aware, hopefully, in this riding, and just to get the word that this is the kind of stuff that Mantha has done. He's been found, like the NDP did their investigation. They found there was enough evidence, guys, communications, there's video evidence, all that sort of stuff. Um, so, I mean, there's enough evidence there. I don't know why this is more forefront news, especially on a provincial level, because this, guys, is a gross, gross misconduct and a massive misuse of his position and power in office. Okay, taking advantage of somebody like that is just, I don't get it. He shouldn't. He should have resigned. He should have stepped down. And we need, as the voters in the district, to make sure that we force him out by voting him out. The NDP has replaced him um, for this riding, so the NDP have another person for this riding. And again, he's running as an independent guy, so we need to make sure we hold him accountable. So if you're in the Algoma Manitoulin riding, heed my words. Don't vote for him over again. He's an independent, knowing the information that there is now. Like, he shouldn't be in office. He should be gone, and he needs to be charged. Everything's still in court, guys. Everything's pretty quiet and pretty hush. But like, this is insane to me, and we're seeing it on the MP level, like we are, which also blows my mind. Especially for, I'll be honest, I voted for him in the last election here because he was a voice. He's somebody that showed himself to care and in touch with all the different issues we have here. Guys, nobody knew about this stuff until afterwards. And here we are left with what we are, the crumbs in which he's left behind, and the reputation he's leaving for himself at this point. Yeah, sorry, I apologize. Guys, I'm talking about an MP uh, named Michael Mantha for the Algoma Manitoulin riding in Ontario, in Northern Ontario. Um, yeah, so there's that. I wanted to make sure to highlight that one, guys, while we were here tonight because it is important, um, and we need to hold the people in power accountable, especially when they do nonsense like this. We can't allow them to stay in office one way or another. Like, they have to go. Um, yeah. So on that, guys, that's pretty much what I have. Guys, come on up if you want to chat with me about this. If you have perspectives or different things that I didn't talk about or that you've heard, by all means, send a request to come up. Let's have more of a conversation on it. Um, I honestly, for myself, I consider myself a undecided because I need to know all the information, their promises, platforms. Um, so I don't make a decision until I've seen all that stuff. And yeah, so I'm still considered undecided in this election. Smarshy, welcome back.
Hi, how are you? I just wanted to let you know that the old premier of Winnipeg, Manitoba, of Manitoba,
Mhm.
sorry, I should say, is now one of the head executives of WestJet.
Really?
Yeah, Heather Stephenson is now an executive in WestJet.
Okay. Yeah, see, and that's the sort of stuff you essentially become like a lobbyist or an executive. A lot more politicians are getting into doing that sort of stuff after they're done in office,
Oh, but it's
unfortunately.
bad.
Hmm. They're
It's
they're they're involved in it while they're in office, just not openly, right? And that's where you see kickbacks. I've talked about it a lot in terms of American politics and their politicians,
yeah.
where yeah, they once they're done in office, they go work for some big company, whether it's oil or minerals or coal or whatever it is, because that's a part of the agreement. As long as they bolster and make legislation that benefits these companies,
Yeah.
they're promised jobs and a good salary when they're done with politics. Uh, um, yeah. So no, absolutely. I'm. Yeah. Like, guys, let's talk about Doug Ford. Doug Ford, honestly, he's got a reputation, all the different stuff that you can write him off in terms of healthcare spending cuts, education cuts. Um, yeah, like the Greenbelt scandal, the building, the parking lot where Ontario Place was for his rich buddies, and the list goes on,
The
right?
building, the parking lot where Ontario Place was for his rich buddies.
How you doing, Kipper?
Sorry, I just lost my sound.
No, you're fine. How you doing?
Oh, oh, there we go. I can hear you now.
We can
Hi,
hear you.
hi. How are you
What would you
today?
like to add to the conversation?
Um, I'm hearing some, or not hearing, but noticing some comments in our chat here, and people questioning about maybe how many conservatives are voting for Ontario and what have you.
Hmm.
Can I put another? Can I put a plug in for another great creator? And you might know him. Would you
Okay, what's
mind?
up?
His name is JB. Have you heard of JB?
We love JB.
There you
Yeah,
go.
good, good. So, yeah, JB has created the website of smart voting.
Yes, that's right. Yes, absolutely. I
Yes, so
shared
I
that one.
wanted to, yes, so I wanted to point out to everybody in the chat to go there, and it will guide you on being smart voting and strategic voting.
Yeah,
It,
absolutely.
yeah,
That's sorry, that's smartvoting.ca, correct? If
that's
I'm not
correct.
mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, so guys, what she's saying there, absolutely. Go check out smartvoting.ca. It's a great resource. You can see a lot of different information on there. Um, yeah, no, thank you so much for plugging that. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
and follow him. He's on like 10, 11 o'clock at time,
Yep.
most times I think, Ontario time. So yeah, and he's very, very educated. He's a political
Yeah,
major or
absolutely.
something, isn't he? What is his credentials? He's political major or bachelor.
I think he has a major in political science with God, if I can remember the other one. I know he told me about this. We had a conversation about this, and he's got some phenomenal ideas too.
Oh, yes, he's phenomenal,
Absolutely.
phenomenal. But other
He,
than the sort of plug for JB, did anybody watch Poilievre's press release today?
yes.
I'm so I'm so horrified. I don't know how anyone else feels about it, but
Huh.
overall, in the end,
Mm,
I felt like he threw Canada under the bus.
he did.
Am I
That
He
alone
yeah,
in this?
That's Pierre's main goal is to throw
yeah. He
Canada
wants
under
to
the
sell
bus.
all of our
Yeah.
resources to make a buck. He doesn't care about Canada. Doesn't care about people of color. Doesn't care about people in the rainbow community. Doesn't care about anyone that isn't Christian, white, or straight.
No,
Yeah, like
absolutely.
yeah, like he went on and on and on about our F problem and the border
Okay,
issues and read off papers of actual stats. Now, isn't that like gonna show off to Mr. Orange Man down there our our downfalls? Like you're putting a
we
target
already
on us
okay,
before the 30 days are even up.
Kipper. We've already done this. We've already had the implementation of the border control when
Yeah.
Polyev when before Trump was in office. Okay, we've
Yes.
already had
Yeah.
that. Okay,
yes, I
it,
know, I
it,
know.
it, it, so there's nothing to worry about right now as long as we keep buying Canadian. And there actually is an app. I don't know if it's just like for iPhone users, but it's
Yeah.
called Ost Canada.
Yes,
And what
I
you
follow
do,
that. Yeah.
and
So
there's yeah,
yeah, sorry, just wanted to kind of bring it back to the provincial level, and that's one thing. It's a key factor in the Ontario election right now. Like all the parties are running on some sort of, uh, you know, against the tariffs from Trump in the United States, um, and rightfully so. It's a big topic. I think too right now, just going to branch off into Donald Trump and the tariffs because I think it is important, especially since it's a part of the election and what the candidates are talking about. The biggest thing to me when it comes to the tariffs, because he implemented them on Saturday, we retaliated. Even our provincial leaders made comments and statements saying what they felt needed to be done. And then come Monday, he paused the tariffs before anything even had a chance to be put into place, right?
Mhm.
As well as I then went and made a press release, pretty much saying, "Hey, look, the tariffs are working. Canada's already bending the knee." But it's all posturing, right? And it's all optics. And honestly, that's the way I view Doug Ford on the provincial level. Is it's all optics and it's all for an illusion because guys like even Ford was caught on a hot mic in terms of he was happy when Trump won the election. He's just mad that he turned around and decided to screw with us,
Mhm.
right? So
And just to
it's
call a snap election unnecessarily.
yeah, and that goes back to something I said at the beginning of the live, guys, is that it's all a matter of posturing. Um, and you know, Doug Doug still has the same mandate that he got elected on back in 2022, right? So him calling the election saying it's on, a tariff control or tariff war mandate is nonsense. His mandate is to fix healthcare and improve healthcare, improve education sector, improve, list goes on when the entire time he's been gutting those systems he's supposed to be bolstering and protecting,
Mhm.
right? So, I mean, he can run this election based off of the tariffs, but his main reasons for being in power, he's completely dropped the ball, failed, and left the systems crumbling for whoever ends up in power after him to pick up the pieces.
Oh, I agree.
Um, and that's just going on what him and his majority conservatives have done, right? I mean, if we're going to get right into policies too, the NDP has been calling um, for a what did they call it? A spousal abuse bill, which essentially highlights that there's a crisis in that sense and strengthens laws and protections for people in those situations. Um, and they've brought it up multiple times in the legislature. And, as much as Doug Ford and the conservatives say, oh, we're all for this, it's an important issue that we need to face head on, they never brought it to an actual vote. It's died in the legislature because the conservatives want nothing to do with it. Um, so on all fronts, really, it's Ontario's been getting worse. We've been dealing with Doug Ford for how long? And I know this seems really biased, but I'm just spitting the facts, guys, in terms of what he's done. Um, and especially when it comes to the unhoused and all the different crap that he's pulling that way. You know,
Mhm.
um, where there's challenges in terms of being unconstitutional because he's essentially stripping the rights of the unhoused. Um, to move them from where he doesn't want them, and then getting rid of safe consumption sites, saying they're too close to schools, but yet, I mean, if they're in the safe consumption sites, you're not going to see them because they're somewhere safe doing it indoors, out of the view of the public. So a bit of an oxymoron in terms of how they look at things when they think they're fixing it or dealing, however you want to say that.
Well, kind of
Pardon
out
me.
of sight, out of mind, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. No, and that's exactly it. And that's what he's been doing. Instead of fixing, he's covering up. And you got to remember, he sent us all $200 checks in the mail beforehand, right? So we're happy. We got money back.
Yeah, bribe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I have a question. With him calling this election, does
Mhm.
it, well, it, like he wasn't due until 26 to do the election, right? Is
Yep,
that correct?
yep.
So will this give him an added year, or does it still come back up in 26?
Which, yeah, so it's the same thing. No, so it's the same provincially and federally. So if we have an election, it's 4 years from when the election is held.
Yeah, I got told by someone today that I shouldn't update my iPhone. I'm like, why? I already did. They're like, well, Starlink. I'm like, T-Mobile, and I'm like, those are American. I'm Canadian. I think I'm good.
You need to be
Yeah.
on Starlink for them to be able to do anything Starlink does to your phone. It's just
Yeah.
the way the
Hey,
technology is
Joe.
that way. Hey, how you guys doing?
Oh, Joe,
Uh,
nice to
Not
meet you.
bad. Joe, before
yeah.
before you hop in, I have to do a bit
hmm
of a shameless promotion time here, guys. Don't forget to keep hitting that like button. Tapping is clapping. Share the stream, guys. Let people know we're here. Let's get the numbers up. As well, we do have live goals. If you feel compelled, guys, I've got a live goal going. Four of those gifts gets us to our goal. If you feel compelled, I appreciate it. And if you haven't quite joined the team yet, click that heart at the top of the screen right now and become a part of the team, guys. We can't do it without you guys. We have to do it as a movement all together, and that is our goal here at Beaver Politics. So, guys, remember all that. Keep tapping, keep sharing. Joe, what's up, man?
You do. So yeah, he's whatever whatever person's going to be going against is going to get Ford is going to have to address the elephant in the room, the big orange one, because that's what he's right now riding on.
Yep.
He called the election early for two reasons. One, he wants to beat the federal election because he's concerned he may, if the federal election does get won by, believe it or not, by Pierre, he risks losing it. This is why he called it before the end of the year, because he thought at the time that Pierre might win and then he'd be voted out the next year. That was his concern. It was I can't fault him on the play in regards to I see the logic as to why. I can I got enough other reasons why I don't like the man to begin with. This but the biggest thing is excuse me. No matter what plans that came out, like the liberal ones, very good. Green, very good. NDP, obviously, they need to form something, and they need to form it quick because again, we've got less than a couple of weeks left here. But you're going to need to go in regards to the thing that he's right now writing because everybody sees him as the great opponent to Trump because he was ready to take the liquor out and he was ready to to put tariffs and maybe turn off the power. So people need to call out for a whole bunch of things. One of them, he wants to take out the liquor. Uh,
Yep.
Intergalactic Ferg came out with a fantastic point. It's like, yeah, he wanted to take out the liquor, but only out of the provincial stores. He just finished rolling out $250 million to spend to every single private business
That's
to have
right.
alcohol. You would have been still buying alcohol, but now from the private businesses, which were his donors. He also just finished spending a crap ton of more money selling off Service Ontario to Staples, an American company. Like this man is trying to be the savior, protect us from America, while he's right now repeatedly selling so many things over to the Americans. Don't believe this thing, and if anybody's running against him, you need to point this shit out and straight up because this is the thing he's doing. He's trying to make you look like a hero while the entire time he is, and just calling him out on the staples, calling him out in regards to the alcohol, calling him out on everything else. And there was another one I wanted to find here. Somebody sent me, and I just tweeted about it today. Not tweeted, sorry. Give me 1 second while I find it here.
Yeah, no, and you're right. There's so much that people either forget about or haven't paid attention because he's done so much more to distract from, that it's hard
Yep.
to keep up with all the different things and avenues he's gone.
Yeah, and this one's sorry. This one was less on Terra. This was more on a federal level. Even with the changes regards to the tariffs coming in, this was going to be sort of a promotion for the private oil companies to also, hey, cool, we can get some more grants now directed towards us to build more
Yeah,
refineries, and still not really helping the Canadians. So they're trying to screw us all over, and they're trying to screw us all over by keeping us distracted with all sorts of dumb shit.
Well,
no, absolutely.
that just confirms my dislike for the man.
It should,
Yeah,
and we
I just
need to
don't like
promote
him
that
because
message.
he's a flip floppy. He's like
he's an opportunist when it comes to politics. Whatever bandwagon
he
in the moment he can hop on to bolster his ego and
right.
his position, he will.
But here's
Yep.
the thing, right? You gotta look at this way. His daughter is now running uh a GoFundMe account so that she can help her husband with legal issues.
Yep. No,
Legal
And
that's right
issues that he
too.
caused himself.
it wow, it makes no sense. I have a GoFundMe account to help me move out of Alberta.
Hmm.
Not
Hmm.
one person has, because everyone's like, move. Okay, I'm asking for help to move because I don't like Alberta. Not one
Yep.
fish, not one bite, not one nibble. I'm like, okay, y'all want me to move so bad, but you don't want to help me. Like, but yeah, let's have a politician's daughter, and she's already raised like $25,000.
Yep.
I think her angle is like $100,000.
It's $100,000 for legal fees because um, he was, if I remember correctly, he was let go because they refused to get the vaccine. At the time, I believe the Toronto Police who he was working for um, let him go because he wasn't following the requirements, and they want
Not
legal
our
fees to
problem.
fight that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not our problem. You don't follow the rules, you don't have a job. Like I said in other oh God, where was it? It was alive. I think it was I can't remember. Anyway, I've said this and I'll say it again.
Hmm.
If you cannot play by the rules and there are consequences, you have to face them, whether they're good or bad. If you
Mhm.
get good karma, you get good karma. If you get bad karma, don't complain to me. I am so tired of hearing all these entitled and whiny and spoiled brat like people when they complain about what they don't have and what they want. Having a job is not a right. It's a privilege.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I want to point out when it comes to that stuff specifically, is when we're talking about GoFundMe's or how we see where people that are, for the most part, better off than the vast majority of us get such support on things like GoFundMe or fundraisers. It's we've got to remember it's people that are in the same position as the ones that are asking for the help, right? Because they're used to their lifestyle not having to worry about such things. So they feel more bad for that person, thinking of their own, like if I were to be going through that, I'd be, I'd be in dire straits or I'd be going through such a hard time, right? Those of us that aren't as fortunate in that sense, we absolutely know, like you said, Smarshy, like it's one of those things we help people where we can, but unfortunately, like we don't have the money to be able to help fund somebody a couple $100,000 for legal fees. We got to worry about eating. We got to worry about, our
Yeah,
cost of living, paying our rent.
and Moose, this is what bugs me the most. Why not ask your daddy He gave you $100,000. He likes to take money from people anyway.
Because the family is probably, in for lack of better words, cut off that family member from the funds,
I
and that's a part of why they've
totally.
got to do the fundraiser. Joe, do you have something to jump
Maybe.
in?
I don't think she's that. Yeah, I don't think she's that cut off from the family. Like that family is. The family is weird.
Oh yeah, no, no,
So
I'm saying in a general, not
yeah.
necessarily her, but just in a general sense when it comes to
Mm.
people that are better off that way, right?
Oh, fair
Um,
enough. Yes.
yeah. Yeah, guys. So there's there's a lot. I mean, if you pay attention to the Ontario politics or the legislature, I should say, there's so much that the NDP and the Liberals have been trying to do over time, but because the Conservatives have the majority, there's been no movement, right? And even when they do investigations or try to nail the Conservatives with something they're absolutely doing wrong, they've just been able to stop it one way or another because they've got the majority and they have control of the House.
Hmm.
So, you
Now,
know,
can I ask, if you don't mind going on to
mm,
this topic? I lost track of what the Ford involvement in that green space Niagara Escarpment
oh,
deal
the
was.
Greenbelt scandal, yeah. So just to rattle my brain a bit, it's essentially he had top rich developer buddies that went to, was it his daughter's wedding, I believe? Um, and through that and everything else, there was bribes and yada 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 at the wedding. So essentially, they paid him to make sure they got the rights for development on the green belt, um, and it was backdoor, shady, like greed, essentially enriching his buddies
Yeah, I
with
remember
giving them
following
the.
it, but I don't know what the outcome was.
They're still
Nothing's changed.
investigating.
Nothing's actually changed. He went on,
What?
like, he apologized for it when the Greenbelt scandal broke, so to speak, but nothing actually changed. And that's why the Green Party actually brings that up in their promises in terms of the farmland and everything, because that's still in place. Um, where was
And
that?
nothing
Block
will ever change.
400, the Block 400 series highways in the Greenbelt and the cancel Highway 412 and Brantford bypass. Um, and there's also like what are they, the infrastructure for developing. So sewage, water, all that sort of stuff is still being put into place in areas in the Greenbelt it's not supposed to be going.
Oh
Go
no.
ahead, Smarshy. Sorry. I know I cut you off.
No, you're good. Again, it's not the fact that he got caught. It's the fact that he got caught and is not being held responsible. If it were
Yeah.
anybody else doing it, if it were Rob Canoe, they'd be holding his feet over the fire. They need to hold this guy's feet over the fire. I am so done with watching rich, whitey, straight Christian nationalist men get over this time and time again and just be like, man, it's no big deal. And say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And then nothing. Like, no, I just can't.
Yeah, it seems like it just faded away. You didn't hear about it much anymore.
Yep. And that's what happens because Doug was doing different things that made people forget, right? Like the like liquor sales, and
Yep.
there was also the I believe it was Joe that brought it up earlier. Around the
Mm.
same time, he was moving the Service Ontarios into Staples, so that was another thing that people were kind of focusing or squirreling out on. And then there was this, and then there was that, and then he did the you don't need to renew your plates or get the stickers for your plates for your vehicle anymore. So people were focused on that, like, hey, we don't have to pay that.
Yeah.
Um,
That's mostly distracted from the failed bucket beer and the failed license plates
that
projects
too,
that he did.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, is
Like
there
we need to
anything?
keep all this in mind.
Is there anything that any of the party's platforms refer to for the trucking industry? Does anybody know?
In what sense?
In supporting the truckers. Um, like with the fuel prices going up. I'm a retired trucker.
Hmm.
I used to drive internationally with my husband. He's
Hmm.
still out on the road. He's owner operator and just struggling so bad. And now with tariffs and stuff threatening, like the fuel prices, like I don't know if any of the candidates are going to take on the challenges of helping. Like it seems every industry is looked at. Everyone's going on strike for more wages, this, more wages, that, fairness of work, but
Hmm.
nobody even looks at the truckers, and they get crapped on all the time.
Well,
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
no, absolutely, and I think they would fall under supply chain
Well, even
in terms of
transportation, right?
industry.
Transportation.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it
Well,
wasn't for
yeah,
the truckers, we wouldn't have anything we have.
no, absolutely, absolutely, and that's part of that's a hard one because it's an industry that you you do see a little bit. I've heard of and seen of a little bit of unionization and worker movements, but it's normally not one that sees very much in terms of worker movements or unionizing. Um, Mostly because in a lot of cases, companies will subcontract to truck owners.
Yeah, like
Uh,
my husband. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So in that sense, they don't have to, you know, really worry about workers unionizing or drivers unionizing because they're all contracted anyway, right? And
Mhm.
that's the way you see. I've done a lot of industrial work as a contractor, and that's where you see a lot of different industries going. Even healthcare right now, is there's so many contractors within the healthcare sector in Ontario. Um,
Mhm.
that it's hard to actually fight for the unionized workers overall and to stand with them, or sorry, not stand with them, but fight for them because a lot of companies, even within healthcare and the truckers and industrial and so many other industries, it's so full of contracted workers at this point that it really doesn't make as much of a ripple effect when strikes do happen.
Mhm. But it
So,
seems like if you aren't unionized, you're sort of pushed aside and forgotten, right? Um,
That's why they want, a lot of these businesses try to break unions. They
yeah,
don't want unions
yeah,
yeah.
because then the workers will get rights. So
yeah, yeah. Well, something as simple as if you were to look at the forward moving plan of most of the platforms, everybody's in agreement that since this threat from the orange guy has come about, and now we know he's an unstable partner to rely on, we have to become self sufficient and try to work through things to boost our economy. And, like they're talking like infrastructure and building and doing stuff interprovincially and everything else. Well, if you're going to start having tankers, and I drove tanker up and down the 400, um, and from the East Coast to West Coast, you're going to have to start thinking about how you're going to deal with things. Like you're going to have doubles, sometimes triples. Those drivers have nowhere to park. When they do go into these en routes, there's none of the shops that are even open 24/7 anymore. The drivers have no food, no coffees, no nothing, no rest areas. Everything's jam packed. You start getting out into the western provinces, they're just far and few between. You might have Petro Canadas out there, and you might be able to park 10 trucks there. And you get triples and doubles out there that have nowhere to go. They can't get off the highway safe enough. Like they don't even think, like, if they're gonna think about improving, and like you had said, boosting the one of the platforms was boosting the roadways in northern Ontario. Well, that's our key route going from east to west. So they're going to have to work on infrastructure up there,
Yep.
roadways,
A-
bridges.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a part of that infrastructure also means places for them to stop and refuel. right? My brother came through from the west, and he
Yes,
said as soon as you hit Ontario up there, if you don't hit it at the right time, like you might as well just find a room for the night because you're gonna be stuck till you can refuel because you still got, 5, 6 hours to the closest gas station.
yes, yes, exactly. And showers, food, like it's pathetic the way Canadian truckers are treated. It's really it's an industry that is so needed, and if it's lost, and not only to mention that, like somebody should be looking at um what's the word I'm looking for, like standardizing trucking training. We know the issues with people that are unskilled and the accidents that are happening.
Well, there's been a report on that. CBC actually did quite the deep dive, and that's more so the training facilities and taking bribes to
Yes,
give
I
people
remember
their
that.
licenses instead of, making them actually do what they need to do to pass. And that's more of a corporate greed issue more than anything.
Yeah.
Um,
Like the Trucking Alliance of Canada is useless, absolutely useless for the truckers.
Well, everything like all the different issues we have when it comes to corporate greed or just how corporations do things, we need to remember in a lot of cases, these companies and corporations are self-regulated or the industry is self-regulated. So there's nobody really doing much to hold them accountable with this stuff until you have something like CBC or journalists in general that are willing to do the deeper investigations into this stuff and bring it to the forefront. Because without that, at this point, we'd probably have a lot more issues.
But the trucking industry is a federally regulated, both internationally, area.
It,
Like,
it it is in certain ways, yes. Like there's laws and regulations in terms of how long you can be driving, how long, uh,
hmm
you can be on the road, yada yada yada.
hmm
But other than that, like there's nothing else. All they focus on when it comes to truck drivers and the industry itself is drive time and what they think is safe in terms of drive time versus downtime. Um, other than that, like there's nothing else that the government really focuses on when it comes to
and the,
transportation of goods.
and the upkeep of your equipment, of course.
Eh, yeah, well, I mean they've got the rules and regulations in there, but again, the the sector or the companies are self-regulating in that sense, right? So,
Well, with the inspection stations and um, watching, like the companies can get flagged if they have too many, points
but
against
but
them.
but those inspection stations need to be open, right? Like there's quite a few along Highway 17 up here in Northern Ontario that I honestly you can drive by any day, anytime, and it's never open because they don't have people to man the inspection stations.
That's true too.
Right?
That's
And that comes down to more of an infrastructure issue in terms of that stuff, which again,
true.
like the Ford government is completely fucking dropped the ball on, along with everything else.
hmm
Um,
But you
so
don't think it
There's a
would
buck
be
to
in
make.
gut. Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
yeah.
Oh no, I said unless there was a buck to make, in which case he was all over that.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But you just don't think that the trucking industry would be of interest to any of the parties to take on the challenge?
Um, I think they would as a broad stroke, like I said, in terms of supply chain and um, like industrial aspect of things, it would be coupled with a lot more than just focusing on the trucking aspect of it.
Like
Um,
with the infrastructure and
yeah, it'd be more of an infrastructure aspect, because they'd probably couple it with hauling on rail or
hmm
ships because we do a lot of shipping within Ontario across the Great Lakes, right? From Manitoulin down to Tobermory and the big cities down there.
Yes.
Um, so there's quite a bit when it comes to shipping. Like you said, like a lot of it is absolutely trucks. But there's so many different avenues we use, not only on a provincial level, but across Canada, um, that it would all kind of be considered under that infrastructure. Um, so, I mean, you could see something in the works if they do a broader infrastructure, which I believe, I'll quickly pull up my notes again here. I believe the Green Party had mentioned,
I thought
uh,
I heard Jagmeet was sort of
well, that's on the federal level, yeah. Um,
so somewhere in the NDP, Ontario, even talking about it. No.
NDP hasn't come up with much in terms of what their platform's going to be. They
Mhm.
have kind of hit like almost like jump out words. So they talk about education, they talk about healthcare, they talk about um, the cost of living, housing, but they don't get more into detail on how they're going to deal with these things.
Okay.
Unfortunately, at this point, and like Joe said when he first came up, it's one of those they got to pull their stuff together and actually come up with a feasible platform, or
More
the
details.
NDP is a sinking ship right off the hop.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
This should have been prepared. Like everybody had an idea what was coming up. This should have been prepared in their hands and ready to go for the minute the writ was dropped. They should have been right out the gate. I'm surprised they weren't.
I'm surprised too because to listen to Jagmeet, he has some great ideas in the house. But
Jagmeet, yes, but provincial right now, not going too well if they're not prepared right off the bat. Because again, everybody knew this was coming.
yeah,
yeah,
no, absolutely. All right, guys. Any quick thoughts here before I just do a bit of a wrap up that you want to
um,
add beforehand?
I just wanted to know where do you think the polls, like I'm hearing different things that the Conservatives are kind of dropping and the Liberals are picking up in Ontario.
Federally,
For
Federally, I know that, yeah, federally, I know that's the case. Um, Provincially, I haven't seen any concrete numbers or polls at this point. And I think it's just with how quick this election was called and how little time it's been since it's been called, I think it's hard to really put a feasible kind of outlook on it at this point. Um, I think give it about another week, and you should start to see some concrete polls coming out with numbers. But again, like take polls with a grain of salt because I mean
yeah,
we all know the polls can say one thing and we end up with something drastically different.
yeah.
Um,
So what's your
right.
opinion then on the chances of getting Ford out?
Um, Again, I think for me it's hard to say at this point. I think there's enough people that are tired of Ford and seeing how things have not actually gotten any better. In fact, things have gotten worse under him. It's just a matter of how many people equate the differences between federal and provincial government. Because, I mean, so many people in Ontario blame the federal government for the provincial shortfallings that we've been seeing over the last, 8 years with Doug Ford. So it's hard to say, honestly. I don't want to make a prediction at this point. What do you think, Joe?
well, I just sent this over to you. But I'm looking over at 338 Ontario, and they've started doing some aggregates in regards to the Ontario election. It's not great. Uh,
Okay.
they're projecting right now today, and you're absolutely right. This doesn't mean anything else except for today, and that can all change.
Hmm.
But it's right now been consistently holding at around the 45% mark. They got a bit of an uptick with the tariff war.
Hmm.
Um, so it's very much like the NDP and Ontario Liberals. They're going to have to say something. They need to be loud. They need to be out there. Again, they need to go and put Ford on the attack. They need to remind people, like, yeah, he looked cool in front of here, but let's be honest here. He also did all these things for the Americans. He still reinstated Starlink. Like that contract's back on the table and it's still back in place.
Yeah,
They need to
absolutely.
Mm.
go and press him on all this stuff if they hope to have any chance to unseat him. And right now, we're not seeing any of that, and it's very disappointing.
No, absolutely. His actions have to match his words, and his words have to actually mean something, and he he fails on all those fronts.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
at a voter's point of view,
Mm-hmm.
what can a voter do to their local um
Volunteer.
people? No, I mean like to push this, like to get them to speak what they need to speak about.
Call your candidates.
Yep.
Say
Call
that
your
this is what you want to
candidates,
see.
call your local representatives, um, and just let them know what your biggest concerns are, what your biggest issues are. That's what everyone. It's the biggest thing you could tell anyone when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
elections. Get a hold of your representative and just keep keep telling them what you need to see.
Yeah, yeah, and tell them to call for it out.
Yep.
That'd be the big one. Call him out for this. That the whole thing is just a smokescreen. We all know what it is. It's he's taking advantage of the situation, and we as my only other last thought before you start doing the roundup here
Hmm.
is we also need to be careful of a lot of the smoke screens. The biggest one right now is the big guy in the states,
Yep.
and he's kicking up pretty much every day. It's some sort of new tragedy of some sort, and the horrible part of this is in the states right now, while he's doing all these messes, the states themselves individually have been working on passing legislation that's absolutely horrifying. A couple of days ago, I was sent a listing of Oklahoma in regards to some of the stuff that they were trying to pass. And nobody's aware of this because of all this. For example, for the bills they're trying to pass, they're going to make it illegal to have homeless shelters and outreach that are going to be outside of Tulsa and Oklahoma City. So unless you're in a major city, there will be no more homeless shelters. They're going to shut down all the other ones.
Oh my God.
They're redefining marriage. Divorce is only allowed for specific reasons, including abandonment, abuse, and adultery. Anything, anything else, it won't be permitted for divorce. And counseling is required before filing divorce, except in cases of abuse and criminal convictions. Child tax credit given to families with kids only when both parents are married and the biological parents of the children, and they're both the biological parents of the children. This excludes homes of adoptive parents, step parents, single parents, and other alternative parental roles. Oklahoma, and the last one is the last one that's right now in the House is they want to require the schools how to display and frame, display as a poster or a framed copy of the Ten Commandments.
Oh God.
So this is the stuff that's right now going on in the state level that we're not seeing because everything else is right now keeping you distracted.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process, people, and I know it's overwhelming. The best advice I heard is don't try to fix and address and rage about everything that's going to burn you out, and they want you to burn out because then when you do, you disengage, and when you disengage, you no longer are opposing any of this stuff. Pick the
Absolutely.
areas that you can specialize in. There's a lot of people. As all everybody starts specializing in particular areas, at least those can get protected. And if there's enough people working in all the areas, should be able to have everything covered.
Absolutely. And that's a very good point. I really appreciate you saying that because guys, there's enough of us fighting the good fight, so to speak,
Hmm.
that I'm going to be more passionate about different things as what Joe might be in terms of what we want to focus on, which is okay because
Right.
w- we can cover more ground that way and we're not burning ourselves out trying to hit everything when some of us are focusing where our strengths are as opposed to burning out on things that we're not as strengthened on, right? So
There's
absolutely,
so much ground.
It's like
yeah.
divide and conquer, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. While doing it together
Yeah,
within the movement,
exactly. Yeah.
and that's key. Doing the Beaver politics now, like I am. I honestly feel like they're on the right track. Um, you know, I align with the rest of the Beaver politics crew, and I love it. And we all have our different strengths and we all have our different weaknesses, which is why we focused on the stuff we know we can do good in terms of bringing the information and focusing on to strengthen the messages and bolster, uh, you know, everyone kind of being together on the same page. Um,
Mhm.
so with that, guys, I do want to start to wrap up here. But just a reminder, we do have a full lineup throughout the week, guys. Um, Mondays, we have Indigenous Matters, hosted by Treaty 6 Birder at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern, sorry. The effects of politics on Indigenous communities and how Indigenous people can affect the political structure. So it's a great show, guys. Make sure you check it out on Mondays. We've got News Hour with Frontline Feminist. On Tuesdays, she highlights the biggest news from the weekend or the news you might have missed and brings it to the forefront for you. Of course, it's Wednesday today, guys. So you've got me on the Mossy Side with the Moose. Appreciate everyone coming out tonight. I really do. All the love you guys have given me has been great, with it just being my second show. So let's keep up the momentum on that, guys. I really love it. Here on the Mossy Side, we cover the messy side of politics, doing deep dives into weekly topics. Thursdays, guys, we have two shows now on the docket for Thursdays, so keep it in mind. Two shows now. The Navigation Station, hosted by the Misses, will be on at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, 4 p.m. Eastern every day, or sorry, every Thursday. And she's going to be focusing on education, resources, and solutions to help navigate the Canadian political landscape. So, guys, her first show coming back is tomorrow. Make sure you go out and check that out. Um, and there's also Truth Through Discourse on Thursdays, hosted by Miss Radical. That's at 6 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Eastern. Weekly discussions on relevant news topics or social issues. Also, great show, guys. They're all great. I love them all. Fridays, Canadian History with a Purple Crayon, hosted by Pixie Lee. So that one's at 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Eastern, guys. Go check that one out. That's another new one that's on Beaver Politics now, guys. I'm really looking forward to that one. Sounds like it's going to be a great time. Um, Again, going to cover the Canadian history prior to Canada with a focus on BIPOC perspectives. It's going to be a great breakdown, great show, guys. Again, that's on Friday, as well as Polititalk, hosted by Nerdy at 6 p.m. Mountain Time and 8 p.m. Eastern on Friday, guys. Weekly debates over politics and social issues, focusing on Canada and including the United States. Guys, I don't know how Nerdy does it. Does a fantastic job at hosting those ones, especially doing the debates. It can be hard to manage a debate setting uh, in today's political climate. So it's fantastic that they're able to do that, and it's a fantastic show.
She's
So don't
amazing.
forget about that one. Pardon?
She's amazing.
Absolutely. She really, really is. And I think everyone, we're all thankful for her as the team and the viewers. She does a great job. And one last show, guys, on Saturdays, Radicalized with The Radical, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. The gray matter of politics and how religion is impacting the political atmosphere. Guys, another great show. Really does a deep dive into the religious aspect and how it impacts how the politics are going. Fantastic job from all our hosts on all these shows, guys. Keep up to date on the lineup. We've been posting the new lineups as they come along, the shows and their times as they go. So keep an eye on the page, guys. And don't forget, we're also on YouTube. So once the lives have ended, guys, if you missed a part or want to go back and watch one again, we post them over on YouTube.
That's, that's
So
great.
go check us out on Beaver Politics on YouTube. Give us a follow over there, guys. We look forward to seeing you over there as well. Our Discord is open to anyone at this point. I believe it's in our link tree on our main profile page here on TikTok. So if you guys want to join us over in Discord, go hit that link and come join us over on Discord, guys. We'd love to have you over there. Be a part of the conversation in there as well. Other than that, I think that's the biggest keynotes for Beaver politics right now, guys. All the new stuff we got coming. The graphics are constantly getting updated. Um, the first show, I didn't have the moose up there in the corner. That was added more recently.
That's cute.
Um, so we definitely have been updating things as we go, getting things better. Guys, again, thank you for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. I love having everyone's voice, whether it's up here on the panel or down in the chat. I do see your comments, guys. It's hard for me to acknowledge as we're doing the conversation up here, but I do see them. And I do appreciate all the love and all the comments and perspectives you guys bring. Um,
Host,
so thank you again.
before you leave,
Mhm.
what can we refer to you as? What's your
Uh,
name?
You can call me the Moose or the
Moose.
Progressive Moose. Is my name is
Okay.
my main channel. So
Okay. And
yep.
before I leave, I'd like to congratulate your entire team on putting this together on a daily basis to make Canadians informed and help us decide and make good choices for our country. So my hat's off to you guys. You're an amazing team.
Thank you so much for that. There's some of the team in the chat I see here. We all appreciate it. We're doing our best, and hopefully, guys, like we're just here to try and make the difference that we need. So moving forward, it's been fantastic. And again, we are so appreciative for all the love that you guys show us doing the shows. And remember, it's about doing it together. It's not a matter of us or really the audience. It's a matter of just all of us coming together to do it together, um, to hopefully bring a better future for all of us. Um, so yeah, Joe, any last comments before we say goodbye for the night?
No, I'm good. I pretty much already said my summary. I think it's, yeah,
Okay.
talk to you guys. We'll talk
There you
again.
go. Well, again, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And don't forget, we got shows going on tomorrow, guys, in the afternoon and in the evening. So don't forget to stay tuned, tune in for those ones, and keep up the fight and stay safe.
Go Team Canada.
Go Team
Woohoo.
Canada. Alrighty, guys. Everyone have a
Thank
good night.
you.
We'll see you next time.